In a world where Microsoft virtualization is still considered to be the underdog by some, the Hyper-V Amigos enlighten the IT crowds on how they could very well be mistaken.
So, hello. Here is... Hey Didier, how are you?
Hello, Carsten, how are you? I'm fine.
You're fine, I'm fine too. This is the first recording of the Hyper-V Amigo, should we call it podcast or videocast or showcast?
Let's call it a showcast, and we can do whatever we want.
Showcast is cool. I'm Carsten Rachfahl. I'm from Germany. You maybe hear it a little bit because English is not my first language. And with me is my friend Didier Van Hoye. Didier, where are you sitting?
I'm sitting in my home office, actually.
I'm sitting in my office too.
Yeah, so
you are from Belgium.
Yes, I am from Belgium.
And not from the United States. That your background is maybe...
No, that's a little blanket I've gotten as a present for my New Year's or something. It has something to do with the fact that I've spent a lot of time in the USA the last years for summits, conferences, some vacation time, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So somebody thought it would be a good idea to give me an Stars and Stripes blanket. So
it's nice.
Yeah.
I want one of those too. So maybe next time when we are in the US, I will buy one. So Didier, we are from different countries. You from Belgium, I'm from Germany, and maybe there are some more Hyper-V Amigos joining us, and they are also from other countries. But more about that later. What have we in common? We have something in common.
Well, if you really press me for an answer, I would have to say it might have something to do with the fact that we both are Hyper-V MVPs,
Yes.
and we love working with Hyper-V.
That's right, that's right.
Just a wild guess.
A wild guess. And this is why it's called the Hyper-V Amigos and not the Virtual Machine Amigos, right?
Yes, it is. Otherwise this couldn't happen, you know. Thanks to Ben for changing the names.
Yeah, and I have this nice T-shirt. I guess you have also one of those, huh?
I have one. It's in the laundry.
So it's too bad, too bad.
Yes.
But it states what it is. I believe in Hyper-V, and you do the same. So Didier, go on.
Oh, absolutely. I believe in Hyper-V. And to prove that, after this showcast, I'm actually migrating yet another cluster to Windows 2012 or to Hyper-V. So
yeah, and I will maybe do a screencast about upgrading our storage space with SSDs and doing some SSD stuff with them. So we are busy man. This is a weekend. So Didier, why want we to do this thing? The Hyper-V Amigo showcast. I have to learn showcast.
Okay. Well, basically, I think we both feel the need to be able to show things to people. We can't drag them all to our lab. You can write only so much. Print screens only indicate what's going on. It's nice to show things to people. Yeah. And I've been trying to make some videos, and I've discovered that it's not easy. Two, the quality when I get it uploaded to Vimeo always seems less than when I look at them at my desk. And since you are a master expert in recordings, I thought, let's outsource all this video thing to Carsten, right?
That's you're such a nice guy. But you're right. We both show things. We love to show. I'm quite not a writer. I hate writing. I prefer showing it. And so we thought maybe showing is a lot of better than writing, or at least for me, I love to show things. And you have a nice demo environment, even at home and also at work. And I have a lot of stuff here too.
No, so we should be able to come up with something.
We will. I'm sure of that. But maybe first, not everyone who will see this, we hope, know each of us. So maybe we do a little bit of introduction of ourselves, where we come from, how long we work in IT. What do you think, Didier?
Okay, it's a good idea. Shall you start to give me an example of how to do it?
Should I? Okay. So I'm starting working in IT. I got first contact with IT in the last millennium. It was 1981, where I saw a computer at a friend of mine. His dad has a computer. It was a TRS-80 from CompuShack. I don't know if you ever heard about that machine, Didier. You don't?
I don't think so. No.
It was a nice thing. You have only ASCII, and there were games on that. So I started as gamer, and very, very, very fast. I want to have a computer on my own, and I was 14 then. So it is. Can I say that? It's 33 years ago now. We have 2014. It was 1981. And I saved a lot of money by working in as holiday jobs in fabrics and so on to buy my first computer. And it was not the fabulous CompuShack TRS-80. It was a Genius One. It was a cheaper version of this computer. And I started playing, of course. I think I started my career as gamer, but I got bored very soon about these games, and I tried to do things of my own, program and so on. And then I bought an Apple IIe. We had that in school, and I started to program with USC Pascal. I don't know if you heard of that.
Well, Pascal I know.
Yeah.
But USC Pascal, I don't know that particular.
It was on the Apple. You had to have two floppies, and one you were booting your system from, and the other you can save data.
Those were still the 5.5 inch.
Yes.
Those were really floppy.
You're right. This was this, and you can make holes in them to use both sides. You remember?
Oh yes. I remember drilling holes in the 3.5 inch floppies.
Really?
Stuff like that. Yes.
So I've done a lot of things with the Apple. I bought another card. You can with the Apple you can add cards into it, like the PCs we have nowadays. And I bought a Z80 processor card where you could do CPM on it. So I had two operating systems in one box. You can start the Apple operating system with a Motorola 6502 processor, the good old one, but it had only 4 registers, I think, and for programming it was really hard to deal with 4 registers. And the Z80 from, I think, Intel, the Intel Z80 processor, this has much more registers, and so I started programming in assembler, but this is quite hard to program in assembler.
Assembler?
Yes.
I'm impressed. I'm actually impressed.
Yes, I started as a programmer, even my business career, so I will talk about that. Then after that, I got an Atari ST1024 with my first hard disk. It was such a thing, with a 30 megabyte hard disk, and it was very, very loud. And I played with the Atari. Even my wife had to buy another Atari for herself, so she was not into computers then as deep as I was. I was a computer nerd from the start, and I always want to do some things in computers. So I've done my school career. I've got my Abitur in Germany. I don't know how the English word is. The higher education where you are allowed to study with in Germany. There are different educations.
Oh yes. You need to do an exam to be allowed to go to higher education.
Yeah. And but when I was in the 13th grade, I started to work for a company in IT as a programmer, and they had a modular compiler. Modular is the next programming language from Nicolas Wirth, who invented Pascal. Maybe you know that. And I started working in a company who was doing a modular compiler for different Unix systems and also for a real-time operating system like OS9. And we were programming modules for that. And there I started as a programmer on Unix, not Linux, Unix. And I remember I was working with a colleague of mine on two of us were working on an HPUX machine with 4 megabytes of RAM. And we both are compiling and working on this machine. So if you look at the systems now, I'm sitting in front of a 32 gigabyte notebook. my data center in a box, and we had so less memory, and it was cool. So after that, I worked for another company. In parallel, I was studying. It's in Germany. It's called Nachrichtentechnik. It has to do something with signaling, an engineering thing. But
Okay.
I got bored of that quite fast, and I thought I can do without a degree from the university. I was already working, and if you work in computer, you've maybe forgot to study, and that was the case with me. So I worked and worked, and after 3 years working as in a company, the company wasn't doing so well, so they closed the doors.
So what did you do to the company, man? I mean,
With a friend of mine, it was in 1991. We decided to start our own company, and I started the Rachfahl Datentechnik then in 1991. This is 23 years actually ago, and from then on I'm self-employed. And my friend worked as an employee. And I went with my wife to Stuttgart. She worked. She has finished her study. She's something like controller in finance controller.
okay. She knows about money.
About money, exactly. And she was searching for a job, and I thought, okay, she is working. She will earn the money. Maybe it's time that you go study again. And I study something like automation. I'm an engineer in automation. It's like when you have robots and SPS things. And I got this degree because you could do a lot of things with computer there, but it was not a studying of mathematics, because
Okay.
in these days, informatics, there was a study called informatic, and it was all the things of mathematics,
Yes.
except one exam, and I didn't like mathematics so much that I want to do that.
It was the same in Belgium. It used to be, I think, a little subdivision of the mathematicals
Yeah,
department. Yeah.
So, and I studied automation, and there we do a lot of things with robots, with Pascal, with C, C++, also a lot of programming things. And there I got contact with more Unix systems. I was not tutor. If you work in for professors,
Yeah.
to do
Assistant?
the assistant, yes, to assist them in their labs, and I was caring about the computers they had, and there actually I got in contact with the internet. There was the internet
Oh,
in these
yes.
days, but there was no web. So you had to do something with Telnet, FTP, and there was this thing with Gopher. Do you remember Gopher?
Yes, I do.
With
And
hyperlinks and all was text and so on.
and Pine for email.
Yes, Pine. Even on Novell, where you had Pine. I think was it Pine and Mercury. Do you remember that? There was
We only had Pine.
okay. And then I was working in for one of the professors. He had a graphics laboratory where he was doing a lot of things with graphics. And then web was born in 1993. And we compiled the first browsers on these Unix machines and started to do things with HTTP. So that was really great. And I was there on a university when the web was born, and I was doing it from the first time. Yeah. And after I finished my study in 1995, my company was running in parallel. We were doing a lot of things with MS-DOS, with Windows 3.1, with Novell NetWare at companies. I decided with my wife to go back to the Sauerland, where we are sitting, or where our company is placed, because of our parents. Both of them are my parents, and the parents of my wife are from or are living in the Sauerland, and so we got back here and started a new company that's called Rachfahl and Thielke OHG from 1995, and we were doing consulting at local companies. and also working as an internet provider in the region. Here was no internet provider, and so we started to offer internet services, dial-in modems where you can access the internet. And this worked quite well until the mid 2006. In 2006, we decided to split up the company in an internet part and consulting part. And my wife and I own the consulting part, and our partner, Michael Thielke, own now the Netzpepper in Winterberg, that's near of Hallenberg, and he is doing a lot of internet stuff. And from this day on, we were only doing consulting. We are doing a lot of consulting in the small business area. But then I saw Hyper-V. I started before Hyper-V with virtual server, maybe as you did, and I thought Hyper-V is great. And I'm an Hyper-V guy from the first hour. So now I'm doing a lot of consulting in Hyper-V, and I'm doing only Hyper-V and storage, and of course a little bit of System Center. So I got, after this Unix phase, I got into PCs. I bought my own PCs, and till then I'm a PC guy. I played with Linux, of course, but I love Windows and I love the Microsoft virtualization. So maybe this is enough about me, so that you are not bored. I want to hear your story now.
Well, I only have to say that you're quite a nerd, aren't you?
I am.
No. So I started a bit later than you did. We didn't have money for a computer at home, so when all the cool kids were getting the Commodores and stuff like that, that was something that was not a world for me. But when I went to university, I decided, well, this thing is important. I need to get on board. So I spent my my cash I earned with a student job in the summertime on a computer, and that was a 386. With 100 megabyte disks and 4 megabytes of RAM.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and it ran Windows 3.1 or something like that. And I was a bit enchanted. I found it all very interesting, and I wanted to learn more. But at the time, I was a student in biology. And all of a sudden, we got all these new toys in the lab later on in the studies that started producing lots of data.
Okay.
And that was the first real confrontation with, oh my God, we're never going to be able to calculate all this stuff by hand, or how are we going to deal with this? So then my colleagues started with the first macros in Excel to start calculating the data that came from the automated scientific machines. And that's how I got interested in programming. And then after graduating, I was an assistant for a while, and I decided that the academic world was perhaps nothing for me. So I needed to do something else. So I started working in data and statistics.
Okay.
And the fun part about that one, of course, was like, my God, there's way too much data. How do we deal with this? So there comes that little computer again. So that's how I started. And I became actually quite an expert in VBA and Visual Basic and programming stuff to deal with data.
Okay.
And then I got into OLAP tools. Today they would call it business intelligence, but online analytical processing, all the cool stuff to get information out of the data. That was quite interesting. That was all in the late 90s. And then I was working so much with computers that I wanted to do more and more. And I also got more and more interested in all the lower level parts, because, you know, you're doing programming and you're doing business intelligence or whatever, and then it's like the network guys always seemed like the real gurus that knew what was going on with all those packets on the wire. And another thing that annoyed me at that moment is that all the real cool stuff they kept away from you. At least that's how I saw it, you know, the Unix servers, the storage, what's going on over there. I want to learn, but they were very protective of it. So that's when I left, and I went to go and work what I could play with the cool machines. And then it was like, whoa, I've got a lot to learn. And yes, I've started learning, and I have never stopped since, basically.
Yeah.
But I transitioned from programming to infrastructure more, because at a given moment as a developer, I was sick and tired of the lousy infrastructure we had.
Okay.
because there was this understanding or acknowledgement of the fact that you need really good infrastructure to deploy your application and make it work well and fast and perform well, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, like, look, I'm going to stop programming for a while now, and I'm going to fix all this.
Okay.
and basically, I'm still fixing stuff.
So,
yeah.
And then you started to work for a big company in Belgium, or a big.
No, it's not a big company.
But you have a lot of data. You're a big data company.
Well, big data is perhaps something else. They have lots of data, and it can be big data. It can be big data, but the cool stuff is the environment where I work in is with geographical information systems. So that means that they have satellite imagery, they have aerial photography, they've got these maps, vector data, they've got scan data, they've got all kinds of data, and especially lots of it. And these people are, let's say, they don't like to be limited. So they needed lots of bandwidth, lots of storage, and speed. And they became accustomed to being able to throw around lots of data. So the challenge was how to do this without breaking the bank, without paying too much money to achieve all that. And we've always been rather creative in spending money in the right place, saving some money somewhere else. And what we learned from that is that you really didn't need the high-end, really expensive hardware, really expensive software. If you take the commodity hardware and think a bit outside of the box, you can do a lot. And the money you save, you spend where you really need it, right?
Yeah.
And after a while, virtualization became more and more something that came on the forefront of things that were happening. And I actually started dabbling with VMware Workstation. That was my first virtualization product. I got a copy for free, I think, at my very first TechEd ever in 2001.
So this is your excuse, huh? You got a copy for free.
Yes, I got a copy for free, and that was nice. And then I started playing with VMware Server, which was also free, and Virtual Server, that was also free. And then
we like the free model. We like the free model. Like Hyper-V is also free.
Yeah, we like it. For some reason, my boss likes it as well.
Okay.
So, but we actually quite liked VMware Server, because that could deal with 64-bit guest operating systems, and Virtual Server couldn't. And in our line of business, we went to 64-bit the moment we could on the Windows platform.
Of course,
I mean, that was very important for us.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of the reason why we were doing a lot of VMware Server. But then they came out with a new version, and we were like, oh my God, they ruined the product. And we also decided that we needed to do something a bit more on a professional and a larger scale. And then we had the option to go to VMware ESX. But around that time frame, we were doing Hyper-V in the beta, the early beta.
Okay.
And we were like, hey, wait a minute. This basically will not cost us a thing. And if it's good enough, it's good enough. So we took a gamble, and we said to the boss, look, we're going to do Hyper-V. And the biggest thing we're missing was the vMotion, the live migration.
Okay.
But we were like, okay, this is not going to stay this way. Microsoft will fix this, and they will, improve the product. They're in it for real. So we were early adopters of Hyper-V, and I remember reading the blogs of John Howard and Jose Barreto at the time, when they were explaining the virtual switch and storage, and I was really reading everything I could find. I called it the free university on Hyper-V, because that was it. There was nothing else. But by doing that, we learned a lot. And I also found that you could, mail them and post comments on their blogs. And yes, they did answer. So we got more and more involved with Hyper-V. We went to R2 very quickly. We went to 2012 very quickly. And now we are, replacing everything.
In the transition to 2012 R2.
Yes, that's in full swing. Yeah.
And this also quickly, because the product is came to life in October 2013, I guess. So we have now February 2014. This is only 5 months ago.
Yeah. And very soon we will not have any 2012 left. It will be all be R2.
So you think the product is good enough to go in production with?
Oh, absolutely. It's actually quite an excellent product.
Yeah.
But you have to know what you're doing, and that goes for any technology. If you just take something like a SQL Server or an Exchange and you click next during the installation, it might run for a while if you're lucky, and then very quickly things will fall apart. I mean, perhaps one of the most problematic issues in IT today is that everybody seems to think it has become very cheap. It can do just about anything, and it's so easy your mother can do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And in reality, that isn't true. And I see a lot of things go wrong because of those reasons.
Yeah. That's especially true what you are saying with Hyper-V in contrast to VMware, because VMware is a product, it has no graphical GUI. You have something on a server, you have a login screen, but you can't do a lot of things on the command line, I guess. In Windows or with Hyper-V, it's only some GUI things to click on, next, finish, and people are thinking they have a product that is running not good enough, it's running great, and that's not true. You have to think a lot about your design. You have to get some resiliency in the product, so if maybe a network card fails, not your whole system is standing. And I think this is a little bit of a flaw, that it is so easy to install Hyper-V.
I don't know if it's a flaw, because I mean that same remark in my career you have heard about Exchange, about SQL Server, about Visual Basic. You know, Microsoft's big contribution to the IT world is that they opened up IT to a lot of people, where it used to be confined to the big companies with the big budgets, because otherwise you could never afford those machines. And on the other hand, in let's say the Unix world, well, that opening up was Linux's virtue, you know, because people were fed up there as well. How do you do Linux? You go buy an IBM box, you go buy an HP box. No, people wanted to do stuff cheaper and more affordable as well. Yeah. So the world opened up, and I think that's one of the big credits you have to give Microsoft. They really got a lot of companies to a level of information technology that would have been impossible before. Yeah. And of course, with opening it up to lots of people, it has a drawback.
Yeah. Flaw was not the right word I choose. It's not a fault of Microsoft that it is so easy, or that they have a graphical GUI to do that. It's in the mind of the people, because I think Windows, it's Windows, I can click on something and it works. And when you are doing virtualization, especially in the level we are doing it in companies, where you have to have resiliency, where you have to have clusters, and it has to run all the time, it's not so easy, or it's not a click through. You have to think on your network design, you have to think on your storage design, you have to think on your backup strategy, and so on. And what I want to say is, if you are on an hypervisor, maybe Xen server or VMware, there is not this easy click-through thing and everything is working. At least as I know, maybe it has changed. But so the people there say, when they are new to it, I have to go to education. I need education to run this thing right. And if it's in Windows, the people think, oh, I don't need education. It is Windows. I have some GUIs, I have some setup routines, and everything is working well. And sometimes it isn't, of course, because you have to do it right. Like in every other virtualization environment, you have to do it the right way. And you are blogging a lot about it and your experience, and I do the same. To educate people how to do it right, or choose one way that is better than another. Yeah,
Well, you have to get people to think about what they're doing. That's the most important thing.
yeah.
It's not just a one size fits all, the magic one sheet,
You
bullet
see,
points. You know, that doesn't
yeah,
exist. But it's also true that a lot of people have been doing VMware a lot longer than they have been doing Hyper-V. So there is a bit of a learning curve because
of course.
it's not just the same product with a different name. They have different ways of doing things or of achieving things.
That's right.
And
I got a lot of questions. I do that in VMware this way, and they want to do it the same way in Hyper-V.
yeah.
And as you said, there are different ways in Hyper-V than in VMware. It's not a copy thing of VMware. Everything was in VMware is now in Microsoft, and they got it and copied it to Microsoft. There are some different approaches to things, and you have to learn them in Hyper-V. And it's the same for VMware. If you are doing Hyper-V all the time and want to do a VMware, it's not the same. You have to adapt to the product and do some things differently. Yeah? I didn't say this is good and this is bad, but it's different. Yeah, and you can't take your sheet, your blueprint of an Hyper-V environment and push it onto a VMware environment and everything.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa, of course. Yeah. And in the moment, there are a lot of vice versas. There are a lot of people coming from VMware and want to do Hyper-V because maybe of the market share VMware has and the price, and a lot of people learn maybe Hyper-V is not good enough. It's a good product, and it can compare with VMware.
Oh, it's a very good product. That's not the problem, right? But I think the problem is more wide than just Hyper-V. I mean, IT has grown enormously over the past decade. That means a lot of people have gotten into IT. There's a lot of need for IT, and talent is hard to scale. So, you know, if you need 1,000 highly skilled people, it's going to be more difficult to get 1,000 that are up to par than if you only need 10.
Of course.
And perhaps that's also a bit of the reason. I see a lot of consulting going on that I mean that word consultant, it has become a bit well, you know, it has a very it's suffering from inflation. A consultant used to be somebody who was highly expert, had a high expertise in his subject matter. And nowadays, I mean, you come straight out of high school, you work a couple of years, and you are a senior consultant.
Yeah.
And if you just take away the default gateway on one of those people's servers, they are, you know, lost forever. It's like, you know, I always compare it to the medical sector. I mean, I accept that a brain surgeon doesn't know everything about the lung functions like a lung disease expert would.
Yeah.
But I get a bit worried if my brain surgeon would say blood pressure. What's that thingy? You know, I'm like, perhaps you need to become a doctor first before you become a specialist in something. And I see a lot of specialists who don't have that broad knowledge of their field, and sometimes it worries me. Sometimes it really worries me. Now, the good thing is, of course, that people like you can make a decent living out of being the real expert and
even know a little bit of the other stuff, because here's how you call it. If you get back to the point at the beginning, we were talking about our experience in IT, and I'm profiting every day from the things I have done in the past. I saw a lot of things. We were even internet provider, I told you, and I had to do a lot of TCP, mail exchanger, DNS servers, even a little bit BGP. I'm not an expert in BGP, but I have two BGP, how you call it, autonomous systems here in my little company running, and so that's an advantage. Maybe you have to have some experience in IT. So you have to be a little bit older than 20 to get this experience to help people in other areas. And what's missing today is the guy who is the architect, who knows everything a bit, or even a bit more.
Yeah,
to how you call it, to
to tie it all together.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
There are so many specialists, specialist A, specialist B, and there's nothing between them. Everybody is doing his job right and good. But how you get
there's
this
there's silos.
There are silos. How to get them together?
That's one of the things we believe in. We actually try to own the entire stack. So all the stories we hear so many times about, oh, I have to get the storage guy to do this, and the network guys have to do that, and the system guys need this, so the virtualization guy can do that. And I'm like, I don't want that. I always try to make sure we own the entire stack, from the storage, the networking, the servers, the virtualization layer. We own it. And it's not like I need to get approval from the storage team, like we are the storage team. I need to get, and that's something that gives you two things. It gives you control and responsibility. You control what you are responsible for, and you are, of course, responsible for what you control. But you also get to show and train people in all the layers of the stack. So you don't have a Hyper-V guy that doesn't get TCP/IP or doesn't get what storage can do and cannot do. So you get better context, and that context is very important. Because one of the things is, experience is one thing, context is another. People who think, people who have that architect role, but it's not just age. Of course, you can. Unless you're an absolute genius, you cannot be an architect at age 20. But I know a lot of people who are 50 who've spent 30 years in IT and who still seem...
And are no architect.
Yeah, and who still...
and are not experts either.
Yeah, it's like... So,
yeah, but you have to have passion for IT.
You have to have a passion for it. It's not something... I always say that to my boss. I don't know what you think I do. I don't put some kind of a book under my pillow at night, and in the morning I know all the stuff.
Yeah,
we actually spend.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be nice, and if that was possible, everybody would be doing it. So, I mean, but it is true. It isn't. You need that architect role, but even that terminology has become a victim of inflation, because recently there was complaints in the Belgian media about that they couldn't find an architect, and if you looked at what they were willing to pay and what they needed an architect for, it was like, come on, people, you're looking for a junior jack of all trades system admin to run the company, but you are not looking for an architect. But if you advertise for an IT architect who has to install the printer toners whilst patching the cables, rolling out the PCs, and designing your SQL Server environment, you might be like, you're looking for a jack of all trades, and you're willing to pay entry-level wages. And then none of the architects you have in mind or know are enthusiastic about that job. And then you start complaining that, oh, we can't find the people we need. And it's like, be realistic in what you need. People tend to I think, estimate the kind of people they need.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, get an architect and he can do everything.
It's not true. An architect is a guy who has, or a girl, of course, who has the overview of everything, and in my understanding, asks the people who have deep knowledge in maybe this silo and bring them together with the people in this silo. Because you said it, IT got important the last 10 years, more and more important in every kind of company, and everything we are doing is connected with IT. And look at our private lives, internet, with the phones, with the shopping, with everything. Is internet is a kind of communication, and you need IT for that. So we need IT everywhere. And as you say, we can't produce the knowledge out of school. Everyone knows everything in IT. You have to get into it to learn a lot, and then you will be maybe a specialist in some area. And it would be nice if you have a broad overview of some areas. You can't have them in all. That's not possible.
That's normal. That's for every industry. But the thing is, I mean, look at the cloud. Look at commoditization. That's great, because what does it mean? You get the stuff that's a commodity for a very nice price, easy. It is what it is. I mean, it's like, You can say, oh, I like OneDrive or I like Dropbox, and both have benefits and drawbacks, but you don't complain about the fact, or you don't start customizing it because it doesn't do what you want. It's free or it's very cheap, and you use it for what it is.
Yeah.
And then you spend your time and money and also your talent in the things that are high value and need expertise and customization. Because one of the mistakes I see made a lot in IT is that people take commodities and treat them like they are something special, and they are not. So they waste a lot of time and effort over there, and then they don't have the money or the time or the experts to work on the really important stuff.
Okay.
So I think that's the maturing of the industry, and that's still going on. And I think the cloud might be helping there a lot, because it's very funny when I look now. In the cloud, people still accept limits. And when it's on premise or in-house, they don't. IT has to do magic.
Yeah.
And in the cloud, it's like you buy something or you get something for free, whatever it is, and it does what it does, and everybody seems to accept it. And when you say in-house or on-premise, well, this we won't do because, one, it's not a good idea, it's too complex, it's too expensive. It's like, no. You have to make this work. It's like, but this is economical madness to do that. And in the cloud, you don't seem to have those discussions.
Yeah. So, but I want to come back to our initial thoughts. We told about ourselves. Of course, you're right with the cloud. I know that. And we want to educate people a little bit more about Hyper-V and Hyper-V related things. This is the purpose of our video. No, not Showcast. We called it Showcast. Yeah.
Showcast.
So, Didier, I hope people got an impression about both of us. We talked a little bit. We shared a little bit or a lot of our thoughts, of our, how you call it, the things that we are confronted with in our work and with people. And so the people know us a little bit. And in the next session, we want to do real stuff, showing stuffs. How we will do that?
Well, we're going to try to take people on a journey through some scenarios and demonstrations in a lab. It's always nice when you read something about, let's say, virtual RSS or VMQ or NIC teaming, but to be able to show people how it works, what it does, what the results are, what the behavior is when you change things or configure things is a lot more impressive to a lot of people, because it becomes more hands-on, more you can almost touch and feel it, see what it does instead of reading about it. And that's something that I found myself, for myself anyway. I like to read, I like to study, but I only gain real understanding and knowledge by doing.
Okay.
You know, you have to play with a product, because when you're reading, you're making assumptions. You might be understanding things not the way that they are. You might have some wrong ideas about certain technologies. And when you start really implementing it, playing with it, that's why I play a lot. I call it playing, but it's experimenting. Name it whatever you want. If it's my boss who's asking, I'm of course doing very high-level testing. If I'm talking to my colleagues, I'm playing with this stuff to figure out what's happening. But basically, that's it. And that playing, that the homo ludens, you know, the human being that plays learns a lot.
Yeah.
And videos for people who don't have access to certain hardware can help out there a lot, I think. So
okay.
That's right. Let's try that.
Okay, we will do that, and I think we will come back the next 2 or 4 weeks. Didier and I, we have to find a date for that, and then we will start maybe with some cool stuff you saw in your environment. What do you think?
Okay, we can try that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
So I think we say this is a day. We talked about us a lot, and in the next show we will show things.
Yeah, and perhaps it would be interesting to get some of our fellow experts or MVPs on board to share even more information.
We will do that, of course.
all our friend MVPs who are now hiding under the table because they know we are talking about them. Yes, yes, we want you on board.
At least the two other Hyper-V Amigos, and maybe in the
Yes.
next show we will a little bit talk about the Hyper-V Amigo thing, why we came to that name. There is a little bit history about that. It's I think 2 years ago, but we will not talk about that now. We will save that for the next session, huh?
Okay, fair enough.
So I would say bye from Germany, and maybe Didier.
Okay, goodbye from Belgium. So
See
now
you.
I'm going to
Yeah?
put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to migrate yet another cluster to 2012 Arctic.
And I will play a little bit with storage spaces. Bye!
Bye-bye.